All right, guys, welcome to the Good Stuff Podcast, where we try to help you love where you live by talking about the good stuff going on here in the community. I'm your host, Derek Schwinn, real estate professional with Keller Williams in town.
And I am Bob Burby, Dutch Mill Greenhouse, and we are here in the back warehouse of the distribution? Donation Center of Second Chances with Tom McCarthy. So welcome, Tom McCarthy.
Thank you so much. This is UCO Industries. We're here because the good folks at UCO help us sort, price, and tag all the merchandise that comes through for Second Chances.
Yep. Very cool.
So, being in real estate, one of the important things is getting rid of stuff in your house. And what a better place than these folks that can actually do something with it? Because my wife would say, I've got plenty of things to get rid of, so maybe it's time I learn something. So, what's some context we can build here about the numbers behind this, how much stuff do you guys get? What kinds of stuff do you get?
We get everything, and we never know what it's going to be. So people in Marysville and Union County have been incredibly generous with us. So just today, we were sorting some jewelry at the store, and Amy calls me and says, hey, I think we got a 14-karat gold ring here. And doggone if it didn't have 4 diamonds in it. So you just never know what somebody's going to give to us. But
so what do you do with something like that?
The good folks at Lambert's Jewelers will help us sort out the real from the fake, and then we'll end up selling it.
There you go. Like they're at the store.
Yep, but it won't be 99 cents in it.
It won't be 99 cents. So someone has to have a good eye for this stuff.
Yes. And these folks do a terrific job out here. Most of the things we get are lots of clothes. People clean out closets periodically. People have garage sales, and they bring us what's left over. Mm-hmm. We can take almost anything. We have a list on our website at secondchancesthriftstore.com that says the things we would prefer to get. But it ends up going one of 3 places. I'll tell you, most of the stuff ends up going to the store because people in Marysville don't bring us junk, which is a big surprise. We were told before we opened, the consultant said have 2 dumpsters and expect to dump them 3 to 4 times a week.
Oh, my.
We have 1 dumpster, and rarely is it full.
Wow.
So if it's not going to the store, though, but it's still good enough, we end up doing what's called baling. Literally.
Yep.
400-pound bales of clothing. They get sold, and they end up going to Haiti or Appalachia. To give you a number, Derek, since we started, it took us almost 5 months to fill the first trailer. We're now filling a trailer every 5 weeks. What that means is we've now recycled over 280,000 pounds of clothing, and we're doing it now at the rate of 40,000 pounds every 5 to 6 weeks.
Wow.
Seriously. Well, I never would have guessed that much.
Yep, and it's all going to people who don't care that Tommy Hilfiger shirt has just a little bit of a stain on it. Now, if it's ripped, it's torn, that goes in the trash. But I'm telling you, very little comes to us in the way of trash. People are very good about what they bring to us.
Very cool. I was going to make a joke of, should I check your website because I've got some paint cans and no. But that's awesome that people aren't bringing all of that.
No, it's fabulous.
Extra stuff.
And the other thing that's just incredible, we have these trailers. So if people have a lot of stuff, or unfortunately if they've had a death in a family, or they're seriously downsizing and they're moving, we'll bring a crew to their house at no cost and load up the things. And we'll sort them as we go. Here's stuff we can use. Here's things that we can't use, but we know Volunteers of America can use, or a homeless shelter in Columbus can use.
Yeah.
Very little goes into trash.
So, it seems like you're almost on a pace of, well, how do you keep up?
It's really a problem. That's why we're opening a second location downtown. We just simply have outstripped the ability to put it all in one store. We're keeping the store we have, but we're adding a second one where Goodies Galore or Wicked Treats has been. Mm-hmm. And we're going to shift half of our inventory there, and that should open in probably June.
Wow. Any sort of division of what's where, or just?
We're sorting through that now. We think that probably furniture.
Bigger things, maybe.
Well, and home goods and home decor will end up where Goodies Galore used to be. And where we're at now, we'll still have some furniture, but primarily apparel and accessories and electronics. Okay. But we have 4 garages packed full of furniture. And Amy and I haven't had use of our own garage for 2 years. So we're looking forward to reclaiming our own garage and a place to put our cars.
Now, are there certain items that you, like you mentioned, there are certain items that you can't get enough of. Are there certain items that you say to yourself, if I see one more of these things, I'm going to do something?
Oh, gosh, what a great question. Probably anything that you get for free, like T-shirts that are
swag.
like,
Yeah.
no one wants to buy it because they know it was free to begin with.
Sure.
So it's still worth free.
Exactly. You can't even give it away,
Right.
basically. Okay. Fair enough. Good.
But almost anything else that has utility, there's a customer for it.
Okay.
So what are the most common things that you take home that don't just end up in your garage, but do you
That I would buy?
So my father's on the board.
Yes, that's
and
right.
I knew he came in, and then I went into his house and said, "What is this stuff? This is random stuff." He went to the store today. So do you fall victim to taking stuff home?
Sure. It's hard because but we do have certain rules. It has to be in the store at least 2 days before any of us can buy it, because otherwise, we'd be, people volunteering would be gleaning all the best stuff, and that's not fair to the public.
Right.
But, I don't need a lot. We're at a point where our kids have left the house, so we're downsizing. But every once in a while, I like artwork, and every once in a while we get a really nice piece of art, and I'll buy it. I'll upgrade my Ohio State stuff. We had somebody give us some game-worn Blue Jackets jerseys, which are real. And I'm going to tell you, they look a lot different than the ones you see in the store.
Sure.
I bet.
A lot baggier.
Yeah. So that's neat stuff like that. It's hard to not
let go.
Yeah.
So every time I get home from a weekend work or whatever, my kids say, we went to the treasure store. And that's code for they went to Second Chances. So
awesome.
Yeah.
We got them trained.
So, yes, they do. And they love it. They actually, because you go almost every week and it's something new. It's completely changed. So they love going, and there's no shame. So
no, it's not. One of the stigmas is, well, I wouldn't go to a thrift store. That doesn't hold true anymore.
No, absolutely
Everybody
not.
from all walks of life are welcome.
Yeah.
The goal of the store is to raise money to give away to charity.
Yeah.
So Amy's the manager. She doesn't get paid. All of our board members, including me, we're volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a small group of people that are paid to make sure the lights come on.
Sure.
The folks at the donation center, the employees at UCO, they get paid. We have 6 adults with some level of developmental disability that have work because of this store, and they do a great job.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a fun place, and we never know what's going to come through the door.
Sure.
The other thing that we've learned is if you see something you like that's cool, buy it.
Yeah.
Because the next time you come in, it's not going to be
sure.
there, and we can't get another one.
So how often? What maybe or just have a guess of the turnover?
Oh, it's every day there's a trailer load that leaves this donation center, comes to the store. On average, there's about 150 pieces of home goods and probably 180 pieces of apparel that go into the store every day. And about half of that will be sold.
Like in a week, a day?
In a day.
In a day. I was going to say, I'm assuming the entire turnover of the store is probably a week or two-ish.
Well, in like most thrift stores, we use a color coding system. So we don't use it to discount like a lot of thrift stores do, but it's how we age our inventory. So if something's been in that store for more than 5 or 6 weeks, it gets pulled and it goes back into the bale that we talked about.
Yeah.
So, but the number of units, it's really amazing how many pieces, especially on a Saturday. We may go through 300 or 400 pieces, individual items being sold on a Saturday.
Well, I mean, just the infrastructure and the manpower behind that's impressive. But, I mean, the coordination especially.
And our drivers are volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
The guys who go out and do their donut pickups, they're volunteers. It takes an army of volunteers who
Did you say donut pickups?
We do that too. Who do the donation pickup?
Donation. Oh,
I heard donuts.
I thought, if this is like you get a donut for donating or something.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So here's what it means. At the end of the day, we're now at a place where the store's generating 12, $13,000 a month after expenses to donate back to families in this community who need it through the Hope Center's Emergency Assistance Program. We donate money to Trinity Lutheran School to help underwrite the cost of education to make it more affordable. We've also started to do grants to LifeWise Academy to help that program at Fairbanks and North Union and Marysville. The underlying purpose of the store is to make Christ known in our community, and we're trying to do that on a interdenominational basis, and we have 63 churches that are partnering with us.
That's awesome.
It is awesome.
That's very awesome.
Wow.
Definitely something we need. So well done, sir.
Yeah.
Well, we only have we succeed because we have lots of people donating, we have lots of people volunteering, and we have lots of people come in and love bargains.
Yeah.
Amen to that. So, how about some stories? Do you have any good stories, real life stories of impact or
Yeah, I could tell
service?
you a few. Last year we had 11 refugees who came to this country under a special program, and they're settling in Union County. They didn't speak English. They spoke French, which was a challenge. But we were able to outfit those families with everything they needed to set up their homes, including toys for the kids.
Yep.
Most recently, we had another person show up at the store who's here on a special program. He works for Honda. He works through Adecco. His family's back in Haiti. He's trying to support them while he's living here. And he's become a good friend of ours. He's working for us as a volunteer because we're trying to help him find some permanent housing.
And
So-
unfortunately, that's a hard challenge these days.
We've had, most recently, as we were talking about before this recording, the unfortunate situation that happened at Indian Lake. And we're now actively helping individual families. There's one family, a grandparents and with a daughter or granddaughter. They lost everything. And they're staying in a hotel here in Marysville. And so they literally had to close on their backs. So we made sure they had clothes that the young lady's able to go back to school. And we're going to help them get reestablished once they find a home with furniture. And it really feels pretty good. And everyone, I think it's associated with second chances. We live for these moments to make a difference.
Now, how do these people find you, or how do you find these people to be able to give?
Great question. So most of our referrals come through the Hope Center.
Okay.
And when people do present themselves, like this gentleman I just mentioned, we'll refer them to the Hope Center.
Okay.
The situation with the family from Russell's Point, we were referred by the school.
Okay. Here locally, the local school,
Actually,
or the
it's
Indiana school?
actually from up in Logan County.
Okay.
Our reach is primarily focused on Union County, but when something happens like that,
Yeah. Close to home. Yeah.
we're here to help.
Sure. Very cool.
Community, that's what it's all about, right? Having those connections and support and service. And
I'll tell you, it's easy to get caught up in the frustrations of a community that's growing. Sometimes it's not as easy to get down Fifth Street as you'd like. But at our core, we're still, in my opinion, an awesome community. And the fact that we have on our board, we have 9 different churches represented on our board. And these people on our board come every month, and they give of their time and of their expertise. With the only expectation, we want to see this thing succeed. And I would tell you, last February, if you'd had the same conversation with me, I was not near as optimistic.
really,
We started in August the year before. We made a lot of mistakes. We struggled. Not that we weren't doing business, but our expenses were out of control, and we didn't have any focus. But from February of last year till August, we rebuilt our cash. And now we're in a position, like I just said, to make meaningful donations every month. And when we open our second location and our overhead goes up very little,
Yeah.
I hope
Then
people will
more.
show up and enjoy
More. Yep.
the expanded assortment.
Yep. So, Derek mentioned community. How long have you guys and your family lived in Marysville?
So on my father's side of the family, since about 1880.
So,
My mom's side a little longer.
oh wow.
My mom was part of the Nickel family, so the German settlement south
Okay.
of town. My great grandfather came here from Ireland. First went to Brown County, and then his son ended up coming to Union County in the late 1800s.
Jeez.
So a while.
A couple years.
Yeah, and my
Couple.
parents, as you know, my grandparents ran the Dairy Queen, had the Midtown Bar, a lot of different businesses that ended up with Weiss's.
Yep, of coururse.
My
You do
grandma-
know I used to work there. Do you remember
Yes,
that?
yes,
I used
do.
to work one of
we,
my first jobs.
We overcame that, Bob. It was, no,
So-
it was, and then my dad had the pharmacy for
yeah,
all
of
those
course.
years. and-
Yep.
and
The
I've been
5-cent coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody remembers that. So
But it's kind of why we do what we're doing now.
Yeah.
I mean, this community has been so supportive, and we've benefited so much, and we just want to give back. And
Yep.
But I think that's the spirit that makes our community what it is.
yeah.
So, what about the storyline of how everything started and why the name and why the structure and
Well, Derek, I was a retailer for a lot of years, and I really enjoyed it. And my wife and I both love a bargain, and so probably about 10 years ago, we started thinking about this. The time was never right. The location we're in currently was a Sherwin-Williams store for many years, and they played the corporate game with my dad, who owns the building. Hey, we're not going to renew the lease unless you do X, Y, and Z.
right?
And my dad always did X, Y, and Z, but in the 11th hour, they'd always renew.
Yeah, of course.
And so every time that was coming up, we were starting to talk about, well, maybe now's the time to do this community thrift store. Our son Matthew actually did a paper while he was in college, and he's been out of college 10 years, about a community thrift store. So it's been in the works a long time. We've studied it. We've visited a lot of them. But it wasn't until about 2.5 years ago when Sherwin-Williams said, we bought a property, we're moving, we're going to build a new store. We said, now's the time to look at it.
Apparently, that was a sign.
Yeah, it was a sign.
Good.
I'll tell you another thing, and I don't want to embarrass this person, but in each one of those times we were looking at this, we would talk to the good people down in Plain City. The Country Closet is run by the Mennonites. They do a fabulous job. It's a really nice thrift store. And they always said, look, when the time's right, we'll be glad to help you. So when the time, hey, it looks like it's finally happening, I call down there. And the long and the short of it is, the guy who answers the phone says, well, let me make sure I got this right. You're Tom McCarthy from Marysville. You had McCarthy and Cox. Yeah, that's me. He says, well, you let me go. So what do you mean I let you go? I mean, when you're in high school, did you work for us like Bob did? I mean, no, I worked for you for a while. I said, well, I'm sorry. And he said, well, it was not a good situation. We both agreed I really needed to leave. So I said, well, I'd understand if you didn't want to help me. He says, no. You folks at McCarthy and Cox, you cover my health insurance till I could get other health insurance. You help my family through a difficult period. I'll do anything to help you. Now, what are the odds that one of the few people we've ever had to leave our company turns out to be now one of our biggest cheerleaders and one of the biggest helps? When I had that conversation, I came out and told Amy, if we don't do this thrift store, someday I'm going to have to answer to the good Lord why I didn't do it.
Kind of there's a flood coming. You didn't get on the boat or the helicopter.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And that gentleman, I consider him a good personal friend, and he's done nothing but help us. And I'm just thankful. And when I did get to meet him, when we met him in Dear Dutchman, I immediately remembered who he was. I just couldn't put a place in the name with. But it's kind of an interesting story. So I hope, and then it's just a leap of faith. Would anybody donate? Would they donate us anything we could use, or was it going to fill up those dumpsters?
I was going to say, not junk. Mm-hmm.
But, I've asked people to help serve on this board for absolutely understanding they're not going to get paid anything. And they've all said yes. And they've all played a critical role. And the right people at the right time, and the good Lord just keeps blessing it. And we're just going to keep doing it as long as people like it. And they show us up every day with their dollars. Our business last month in February was up 40% from a year ago. It's now March 20 what?
First.
And we already have our March in from last year. So the business continues to grow. The quality of the items we continue to get continually improves. And the folks out here at UCO are doing a fabulous job. So it's all coming together.
I mean, I came in a couple of days ago just to look at the space, and I think all this stuff, or half of this stuff at least, is new and processed. And, there's always somebody moving things around, and it's quite impressive.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. We're very fortunate.
So the name, is it dual meaning? Or
Yes, it has multiple levels. Second chances because of all the items we give.
They have a second chance. Yeah, that's what I figured was the most obvious.
Yep. The second is obviously the money we give away is helping people have a second chance at life. And one thing we haven't talked about is a really critical partnership we have with West Central Correctional Facility north of town. If you look around here today, there's 2 gentlemen working. There's almost 2 men or women volunteering, doing their community service hours Monday through Friday, and they provided critical labor. But in that process, we're hoping to maybe model for them a different way of life, encouraging them. We've had a number of them come back after they've been released and spend time with us. And in this new location, one of the things we hope to do is refinish furniture and paint furniture and fix things. We're going to have in major appliances like washers, dryers, freezers. But part of that is to provide intentionality of giving folks coming out of West Central skills.
Yeah.
And having them work there and have them have real value. And we're trying to work a partnership with West Central so as they're released back to the community, some of which are from our own community. These folks, men and women, will have a place to work while they're trying to find more permanent employment. That's our goal. So second chances for a lot of things. Not only the things you're donating, but the people you ultimately will benefit.
So we've used West Central before. At work, we had this giving garden where we planted vegetables, and we partnered up with the health department and the master gardeners, and then we brought in West Central folk to help us clean the garden, pick the produce, all that stuff. And I think they thoroughly enjoyed just getting out, being involved in the community, and just giving back. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's awesome. Super awesome.
Yeah, and most of those people, I over 90% had some sort of an addiction.
Yeah.
And it led to bad behaviors. They've now come through the program. They're in their last month of an 8 or 9 month program. Most of them really want a shot at life. Now, some of them, unfortunately, will probably relapse. And we've been at this long enough that I know a couple of people they've relapsed and they've OD'd, and we've been to some funerals. But most of them, I think, have a really good shot. They just need the community to give them that second chance.
Yep.
And the hardest thing they have to do a lot of times is just forgive themselves. They're embarrassed. They made a mistake. And they want somebody to say it's okay. And that's what God's grace is all about.
I'm going to say, and how does that get shown? We have to do it.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it just seems like a fitting name for some reason. Like, sometimes I think the simple, it was like a Socrates quote or something, like true elegance is simplicity or something like that. Just
it's funny, Derek. We actually had another name for the community, for the store. And then the gentleman from Country Closet calls me up and says, hey, there's a store in Richwood that's closing. And they've got a lot of fixtures. And they called us to asked if we wanted them. We really don't need them, but maybe they could help you out. And it was called Second Chances.
Yeah.
And so I asked them, hey, I don't want to steal your name,
but can I?
But can I? And they were awesome. And they said, yeah, we'd be flattered that you would
keep it going.
Take on that name. So we scuttled the other name, which I can't even remember now. and we elected Second Chances. And it's worked.
Any other backstory that's good to share? The hidden gems of
There's
too many to pick
well,
one?
I'm trying to think. in terms of people we've helped, there's just lots and lots of them.
And you don't have to just focus on second chances. I know you're involved with a lot of other organizations.
Yeah, I'm fortunate.
A lot of organizations, too many to name. But besides second chances, what is something else that you're super passionate about? I know we were on the board together for Care Train for a number of years. You got the McCarthy and Cox Foundation and all those other things that you guys help out with. What are, besides McCarthy and Cox, that'd be the obvious, and the second chances, what other things that are you most passionate about?
Well, you mentioned the McCarthy and Cox Cares, and there's Jim and Faye Cox started a fund called the Elizaveta Fund.
Yeah.
And that fund helps families place children, adopt children, and give them a permanent home.
Mm.
And I'd have to ask Jim and Faye for the current count, but it's over 20 kids have been placed into their permanent homes because of that. And I think that's something our whole community can be proud of.
Yeah.
You know, Care Train is such a unique opportunity for all of us to give, and I can't help but be proud of that.
Yeah, yeah.
We're active in our church. We're always looking for ways to try to give back.
Yeah.
What are the most common questions you get from folks about why or where?
Well, one of the things I get asked, just because I've lived here my whole life, is why did you come back to Marysville? And you know, it's funny how, and not everyone can say this. I understand that, but when I look back at my life, and I'm 66 years old now, I probably look a little older than that, but that's what it is. Everything has worked out the way it should have, even though at the time I didn't think it was. So I came back to Marysville because I was actually wanted to go to law school, and I was on that path, and I had a full ride to go to CAP, but my family had a need. My Weiss's was really struggling. This is in the early 1980s, and my dad was trying to make it in the world of pharmacy with Revco opening up and a lot of discount stores opening up in the community. So I came back to help my grandmother for what was supposed to be 18 months, and it turned into 18 years. And
I've been there, yeah.
Yep. But I'm very thankful that I'm here, and you know, I've had the opportunity to serve as a county commissioner for 14 years, and now I'm running again. I don't have an opponent, so I should win.
Just takes one vote.
Good luck.
But this is just an incredible community, and the more you get to know it, the more you'll like it.
Mm-hmm. So I forget the date. When's the first bit of your family here? 18 something you said?
Yeah, they've been here a while.
Yeah. So as one of the most, you know, because there's times I've been here for 31 years, and I feel like this is mine. And then you've got, you know, all the variants of I've been here for a day all the way back to however long. Yeah. And, you know, as we're growing, as somebody who's been here for a long time, what is probably maybe the best question is, what's the best way for us to keep it that way? Because sometimes I think the conversation's easy to go to, well, we're going to be Dublin, we're going to be Hilliard, and we're going to be like them and all of these things. And, you know, with growth comes growing pains. And so what's the best way to manage that moving forward for us, in your opinion?
I just hope we can stay engaged. If I don't know you, that's a problem. And so I think the community is trying to create opportunities for all of us to volunteer for different things, like Care Train, such a great example of that. But building and maintaining community is really the key, and it's the real challenge. We need to realize that Marysville, with our proximity to Columbus and Central Ohio, is naturally going to grow. And that's a good thing as long as we don't lose our identity and we don't try to be something we're not. I mean, we don't have to be embarrassed to say we're from Marysville, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things in the DNA in this community that I would trade for any other place. And part of it is, if we just look at what happened to the Trapp family last week when they lost their family farm, mom and dad are trapped in a house and they get out, they lose their grain systems. And then I find out there were over a dozen farmers who showed up the next day with their semis, and they found this piece of equipment that can, like a big vacuum cleaner, pick up all the loose.
Yeah.
Oh, I drove by yesterday. It looks like a industrial construction site. I mean, there's it's amazing, like the piles of concrete in this, and I mean, I live like half mile from it across the road, and there's pretty much been somebody there the whole time.
Yeah, and they all truck this stuff to the grain. Much of it went to Poet up in Marion, who I understand shut down their deliveries from any other place, so that Randy Trapp and his family could get that crop to them
Off the ground. Yeah.
And then there's another group of people who showed up from churches that had meals for the guys that were volunteering with the trucks. There was an army of folks, high school students from the FFA, who went out and helped clean up the fields. Tragedies like this are terrible because unfortunately, some people, there was a loss of life and people have lost their homes. At the same time, we don't turn our backs on our neighbors. Yeah. And I think as long as we can continue to lift that up as an example, and I hope, we were talking about second chances, I hope it can be also an opportunity, because we have people from all the different churches who volunteer together and they get to know each other. Mm-hmm. And we all realize, you know what? This is what makes our community special. I hope we never lose that. And we could scale that. If we get bigger, it doesn't mean we get less like that. Let's hope we can make it more like that.
More of it. So what would you say is the future? I think that's another question on that. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I'll follow up with that. What is the future from? Is that where you're going with this?
Sorry. I think that's up for us to decide.
Yeah.
I think that we're really at a critical time in our community development. We can come together and try to decide what we want to be when we grow up as a community, mm-hmm. and our children and our grandchildren, even our great-grandchildren. Some of these decisions, when you take a 500-acre piece of ground and you convert it to something else, it's probably not going back to farming ever again.
No, never.
And we have just a huge opportunity to plan what we want that community to look like. And I'm optimistic that city council and the county commissioners and the townships, if we can get together and come up with a common vision and then articulate that to the rest of the community, I think this community will rally around that. If we don't do that, I don't even want to go there, because I think we will do that. Yeah. And I think that opportunity is, we can become a model for any other community in this country to look at how should a community function.
Right. So if I'm new to Marysville or Union County and I want to get more involved in just helping people, and I feel like you would be a great person to ask this question to, how do you get involved in the many, many organizations in Union County, and where should you source those places that you'd want to be helping out?
Wow, that's a great question. First, I think you have to identify, what are you really passionate about? What do you really like, and what do you like doing? Mm. Then understand that Marysville's a pretty welcoming place.
Yeah.
Don't be intimidated. The Chamber of Commerce is obviously an easy place to turn, but I think our churches and our communities of faith are an excellent place.
Yeah.
I would encourage anyone to find a church that aligns with their beliefs, and then just raise your hand and volunteer.
Just ask.
Just ask.
Yep.
And you're going to find people, more than likely, eager to have you step forward.
Sure. Yep.
And if you have kids, volunteer at school.
Schools, sure. Yeah.
Like you said, engage. That's one thing I try to say more than anything is, if we don't engage, there's a guy online that I hear that when we stop having conversations, that's when things turn bad. So in general, just having conversations and having a reason to engage. And like you said, having a common future we're living into and some leadership in that is very important. So we're all fighting the good fight in the same direction for the same reasons and engaging in that activity.
Yep.
Very good stuff.
Yep. We've got a great future. And, we don't have to drive too far to find communities that had a great past, but not much of a future. And a lot of that just comes down to community leadership. And, we have got incredible employers. We're close to Columbus. You have the best of both worlds.
It's my biggest selling point for Marysville.
Yep. It's a huge, huge plus.
Yep. I'm 9 miles north in the country, but pretty much the same distance on the other side. You can get into Columbus, Dublin, world is your oyster.
Yeah, the Buckeyes aren't too far away either.
Exactly. And I also like to point out that if we had the mountains and the beach, we'd get bored of them. So at least we have vacations we can still go to.
Yep.
Yeah. But okay, so now for a community spotlight on Second Chance. How do people get involved? Where do we send folks to get? What are hours? What's anything like that we can share?
The easiest thing is just like anyone else, just go to our website, which is second. We abbreviate that to ND. So second, and it's chances plural, or you'll end up at somebody else's store.
Yep.
So secondchancesthriftstore.com, and you can hear all about us. You can call the store. You can walk in the store and just say, I'd like to volunteer. You can show up at the donation center through the week, where we staff it from 9 to 5, and somebody will take your donation. And when we do that, Derek, we'll actually ask you, is there a particular church or charity in this community you want to benefit by your gift? We track those, and at the end of every quarter, we issue gift cards to the thrift store, to the charity of your choice. They, in turn, put those gift cards in the hands of people who need them. But we also have after-hours passive. There's donation bins you can put stuff in. And, of course, if you got too much stuff, it won't fit in your car, or that sofa just won't
That
call
trailer.
us. We got trailers, and we got trucks, and we got volunteers.
And you got muscles. That's right. Uh-huh.
We appreciate that.
For sure. Well, Bob, you got any other good singers?
I mean, I could talk to Tom all day long. One thing here, I want to talk about your hobby.
Oh, fishing?
Fishing. Yes. A friend of ours said that I want to get this quote right here real quick here, if you don't mind.
No.
What did he say? Oh, sometimes he goes by James, sometimes it's Jim. He said, ask him about the time he got outfished by a guy with no arms and no legs.
Oh, yeah. A guy named Clay Dyer. and Clay Dyer is as inspirational a story as you'll ever want to meet or find out. And you can, if you Google Clay Dyer professional fisherman, you'll see him.
Mm-hmm.
Clay was somebody born with no legs, no hands. He has a stub of a right arm. And the very first major tournament that I was going to fish in was in Florida. In Florida, you think it's going to be warm.
Mm.
But this morning, it wasn't even freezing. It was 28, 29 degrees, windy, rainy, awful. And I show up, and I'm walking across the parking lot, and I have my coffee, and I spill my coffee, which is not good in the morning.
No.
I'm lugging all these poles, and I get to the guy I'm supposed to fish with, Clay Dyer. I have no idea of his situation. And he has a smile on his face. Says, hey, you're fishing with me today. Hop on. And I'm thinking, how can I complain about my fingers being numb and my feet being cold
no coffee.
when I'm fishing with a guy who
doesn't have
neither?
them.
Yeah.
And so Clay's become a really good friend of mine because of that one day. And doggone it, you just have to understand how it is. How do you, when you catch a fish, how do you take it off if you have no hands?
I'm trying to envision this.
blank.
Or you want to change out your lure.
Yeah.
Well,
anything.
What you do is if you're Clay, you take it between your teeth and you literally stab it in the stub of your arm. And then he's so gifted. I mean, he's done this thousands of times.
Yeah.
And he can tie on that lure. Or what do you do when you're fishing in Florida and you bring back your lure and it's covered with grass and God knows what all?
Yeah.
Well, you swing it up to your mouth, you put it in your mouth, you spit it out, and you recast.
Jeez.
I mean, I listened to him. I think it was where did he come speak?
We actually, as a result of him fishing with me, I invited him to Marysville, and he came and spoke to the kids at Trinity. He came and spoke at the Methodist Church for it was one of their bluegrass concerts, and we had a men's breakfast that he came and spoke at.
Did he come to the Rising Star Lee Heron thing?
Yes.
I was going to say, I think that's where I heard him.
Yes, and that's correct. We tied all that together.
Yeah. And so I've heard it before, but like listening to you, I'm like, yeah, that just seems impossible. Like that just is so mind boggling to Because I mean, to manage a boat, to do anything on a boat, to do any of the things you're saying is, yeah.
I'll tell you one final story. So when you're in a bass tournament, the goal is to get from point A to wherever you're going to fish as fast as you can get there. So this is in Lake Harris, which is Leesburg. We take off, and I'm like holding on to the handles and praying we get across the lake. Clay has got this thing. We're going 70, 80 miles an hour. He's bouncing around in the seat, steering this boat. We get to the other side of the lake, and he says, "You look a little peaked." I said, "Yeah, Clay. I was afraid the whole way across the lake you were going to fly out, and I'd have to figure out how I was going to fish you out." And he says, "Well, I know how to swim." I mean, like,
of course,
remember, it's 20-some degrees.
my.
It's freezing cold.
I mean, if adversity's been your day one, I'm sure like flying across the lake at 70 is no big deal.
Yeah.
But I would encourage anybody who watches this, Google Clay Dyer and know he's the real deal. He's as humble a person as you'll ever meet. He's overcome more adversities in his life than hopefully any of us will ever.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one heck of a fisherman.
Yeah.
Nice one. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Jim, I was trying to get some dirt on you. Nobody had anything good to share.
Nothing good to share?
Well, I'm sorry. Nothing as far as dirt.
Okay.
No good gossip.
No good
gossip.
dirt.
No, everybody was Tom's top notch. No one cares about this community more than Tom. I'm like, well, we all know that, but I want to get some real dirt and rile you up a little bit. But I had no clue where that story was going. So I think that's super awesome, and I think that's a heck of a story to end the conversation on. So,
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, guys. I hope people take pride in our community and know that, it's really up to us. We're going to be what we want us to be. So,
well, and thank you and everybody like you that has done what they felt called to do to get us to this point. So we wouldn't be here without the leadership and the involvement of passionate people like yourself. So
I appreciate that.
Thanks for leading the way.
Yes.
Hopefully we do continue. And so we'll end with that. Thank you for tuning in if you've stuck with us this long. Not too long of one, so thanks for keeping it concise. But we've got things coming up in the future, so take a look at the website, take a look at Facebook. We'll ask for some questions on future episodes so you can see who's coming up. And subscribe to the newsletter, the podcast, wherever you've listened to this. And yeah.
And come shopping.
And oh, yes, thank you. I forgot to add that one in there. But yeah, donate, volunteer, shop, all of it. Until next time, take care.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. See ya.